There's a quiet truth most of us overlook until it catches us off guard. The fact that you are here right now, aware, not as a vague observer, not floating through someone else's story, but fully yourself, conscious of this moment, inside this mind, this body, this life. It's easy to imagine consciousness as just another feature of being human, a byproduct of the brain, a trick of biology. But peel back that assumption and something unsettling emerges. Out of the infinite combinations of matter, time, and perspective, somehow this became yours. Science can map the brain in exquisite detail. It can track the surge of neural signals, record the chemistry of emotions, and model behaviors with chilling precision. Yet none of that explains the simple, irreducible fact that there is an experience unfolding behind your eyes. Philosophers call this the hard problem of consciousness, not because it's complicated, but because it may be unsolvable. Every measurement, every scan, every theory crashes against the same invisible wall. Why does all this activity feel like something? Why should there be an I at the center of this experience at all? And why you? Why this particular thread of awareness, anchored in this time and place rather than another? Could the consciousness flowing through your mind just as easily have landed elsewhere in another person, another life, another moment entirely? These aren't just philosophical riddles or late-night curiosities. They cut to the heart of identity, of what it truly means to be. Are you simply the sum of memories, habits, and flesh? Or is there something deeper, something science can't yet touch, woven into the fact of your existence? Even stranger, this identity you call you isn't fixed. It bends and shifts with every moral choice, every psychological change. And now, as technology begins to clone voices, mimic personalities, and simulate minds, the borders of identity blur even further. Yet through it all, one mystery remains untouched. Why is there someone, you, experiencing this life right now? And how do you begin to make sense of that impossible fact? Consciousness is often described as the final frontier of science, not because it's vast, but because it's intimate. The one thing we all know with absolute certainty is that we're conscious. Everything else, our memories, our senses, the external world, could be doubted. But the raw experience of being aware, that's undeniable. And yet, despite this certainty, science can't explain why consciousness exists at all. Neuroscience has made extraordinary progress decoding how the brain processes information. It can pinpoint where emotions flare, where memories form, where pain registers. These are sometimes called the easy problems of consciousness, not because they're simple, but because they seem solvable. Given time, resources, and better tools, we'll likely map every cognitive function down to the last neuron. But there's a chasm between those explanations and the direct experience of being. Knowing how the brain reacts to light doesn't explain why seeing the color red feels the way it does. Tracing pain signals doesn't reveal why pain hurts. This is the hard problem of consciousness, named by philosopher David Chalmers, but recognized by countless thinkers across disciplines. Subjective experience, what philosophers call qualia, defies measurement. You can't scan for it, weigh it, or isolate it under a microscope. From the outside, a brain is just electrical signals firing in patterns. From the inside, it's a living world of sights, sounds, feelings, and thoughts. Two entirely different descriptions of the same event, and no scientific model yet bridges that divide. This is where materialism, the belief that everything reduces to physical processes, faces its most unsettling challenge. If consciousness is just the brain computing information, why does any of it feel like anything? Why isn't it all just silent calculation? For every neuron firing, why is there an experience? Why is there a you watching it unfold? Some theories suggest consciousness emerges once complexity crosses a certain threshold. Others propose it's a fundamental property of the universe, like space or time. None of these ideas answer the core question. Why does this intricate machine produce awareness rather than functioning like a perfect but unconscious computer? And even if consciousness does arise from complexity, that doesn't explain your particular vantage point. Billions of human brains operate every day, yet it's this one, right here, producing the stream of experiences you call self. Biology can't tell you why consciousness landed here, now, rather than anywhere else. This puzzle has haunted thinkers for centuries, but modern science has sharpened the paradox. The more we understand the mechanics of the brain, the more obvious the gap becomes. Mapping the mind with precision only deepens the mystery of how subjective experience fits into the picture at all. It's tempting to imagine the answer is just around the corner. One more breakthrough, one more discovery. But the hard problem isn't a missing piece of the puzzle. It's a realization that the picture itself may be incomplete. That consciousness doesn't fit neatly within the physical models we've built to explain everything else. And so, the question lingers, not because it's unsolved, but because it might be unanswerable in the way we expect. Yet it refuses to be ignored because every second it's there, illuminating everything you know and everything you are. Personal identity feels obvious until the moment it's questioned. You move through the world with a name, a face, a story. You carry memories, desires, regrets. All of it forms the person you call me. Yet when pressed, this sense of self begins to blur. Philosophers have wrestled with the nature of identity for centuries. John Locke argued that it isn't the body that defines who we are, but the continuity of memory. As long as you remember being the child who scraped their knee or the teenager staring out their bedroom window, you believe you are the same person. Lose those memories and the connection weakens, raising unsettling questions about where the self truly lives. Building on this, Derek Parfit shattered the idea of a solid, unchanging identity. He described the self not as a singular thing, but as a bundle of experiences, beliefs, and psychological connections that shift over time. According to Parfit, what matters isn't some hidden core, but the strength of these connections. Change them enough, and the person you were might no longer exist, though the body remains. Thought experiments like the ship of Theseus make this tension painfully clear. If every plank of a ship is replaced one by one, is it still the same ship? If every cell in your body renews, every belief evolves, every memory fades or distorts, what exactly survives? The answer isn't simple, yet you feel a continuous thread pulling through every moment you've lived. Science doesn't offer much comfort here. Neurological studies confirm that memory is malleable, identity fluid. The self is less a fixed entity and more a dynamic process, a story told moment to moment, constantly edited and revised. Psychological theories like the dialogical self propose that identity isn't singular at all, but made up of competing voices, shifting roles, and imagined conversations within the mind. Even more unsettling are the experiments that test the limits of personal identity. The teletransportation paradox, famously described by Parfit, asks, if every atom in your body were disassembled, copied perfectly, and rebuilt elsewhere, would that copy still be you? It would share your memories, your voice, your fears. But the original you, the biological version, would be gone. What survives is a replica convinced it is the same person. And perhaps, in every practical way, it would be. Still, something feels lost in that translation. These aren't just philosophical games. They reveal the fragility of the very thing you take for granted every day, that you are a singular, continuous self, carried unchanged from one moment to the next. Yet every available theory, philosophical, psychological, biological, suggests otherwise. Identity is less like a solid object and more like a river, always flowing, always changing, yet somehow recognized as the same. And here the question deepens. If the self is just an ever-shifting collection of memories, stories, and habits, why does it feel so anchored? Why does there seem to be a consistent I experiencing the world when every piece of that I is subject to change or loss? Science can measure the changes, philosophy can describe the paradox, but neither can answer the most intimate mystery of all. Within this constant change, consciousness feels singular, while there is still a center that calls itself me. Personal identity doesn't exist in isolation. It bends beneath the weight of every moral choice, psychological shift, and technological advance. Each moment reshapes the answer to the question, who am I now? Psychological studies reveal that our moral character isn't just an accessory to identity, it's central to it. Change someone's memories or preferences, and we might still recognize the same person. Alter their core moral values, though, and the very sense of that person's identity seems to fracture. Someone once known for kindness who becomes cruel is often described not as changed, but as no longer themselves. Experiments in moral psychology have tested this instinct. In one study, participants judged that moral traits, compassion, honesty, cruelty, defined identity more than memories or personality quirks. People viewed a shift in moral character as a deeper transformation than the loss of childhood recollections or even a change in lifelong beliefs. Beneath the layers of story and memory, it's the moral thread that seems to anchor a person's essence. Yet morality isn't fixed. People change, sometimes slowly, sometimes in a single moment. A traumatic event, a powerful experience, even a brush with mortality can redraw the entire map of who someone believes they are. The self isn't immune to time or circumstance. It's rebuilt constantly, sometimes subtly, sometimes radically. Philosopher L.A. Paul calls these transformative experiences, events so profound they don't just change what we know, but who we are. Parenthood, near-death experiences, intense spiritual awakenings, each can shatter and reassemble identity in ways that no prior knowledge could predict. What emerges may carry the same name and face, but the person inside is unmistakably altered. And as if that weren't complex enough, technology is now testing the boundaries of identity itself. Artificial intelligence, digital replication, and voice cloning are no longer science fiction. Algorithms can study a person's words, tone, and choices, generating a convincing digital double, not a look-alike, but a mind-alike. A version of you that sounds, thinks, and even hesitates like you. Voice cloning tools, once crude novelties, now create replicas that fool even close family members. AI chatbots trained on personal data generate conversations indistinguishable from those you might have had. These aren't simply recordings, they're evolving systems designed to predict what you would do or say. Philosophers and scientists are already grappling with the implications. If your voice, your thoughts, even your conversational patterns can be copied, what happens to the idea of a unique self? Does identity survive when a version of you can be summoned, edited, and replayed at will? Some argue these digital reflections aren't truly conscious. They're empty shells running code. Yet they raise a deeper question. If the self is just patterns of behavior, thought, and memory, where does replication end and personhood begin? When the simulation is good enough, even those who knew you best might hesitate to say what's real. Technology doesn't just challenge the boundaries of identity, it exposes how fragile those boundaries have always been. Every digital clone, every AI-generated likeness forces a reckoning with the same question philosophy has asked for centuries. What, if anything, makes you irreplaceable? As science edges closer to replicating the outward expressions of a person, the mystery only deepens. Because beneath the data, the patterns, and the voice, there remains the silent witness. The conscious center no machine can yet explain, much less recreate. For a moment, pause and feel the weight of it. Of all the infinite moments that could have unfolded, you're here, aware, alive, witnessing this exact stream of thoughts. There's something impossibly rare about that. Something no theory, no machine, no scientific breakthrough has ever fully captured. You are not a copy. You are not a simulation. You are the conscious witness to a reality that bends itself around your eyes, your thoughts, your memories. There's power in that, real power, not the kind handed down by the world, but the quiet, unshakable truth that you are experiencing this universe from a vantage point no one else can ever touch. And maybe, just maybe, that means your existence carries a weight the universe itself had to make room for. There are no final answers here, only the invitation to stand in awe of the fact that you are here to ask the questions at all, that you are the one who wonders. And if that realization stirs something in you, if it cracked open a door you didn't know was locked, share it. I want to know what this unlocked in your mind. Leave your thoughts below. Tell me what you felt. If this spoke to you, stay with us. There's so much more ahead. Questions that pull you deeper. Ideas that refuse to leave you unchanged. Subscribe now. Join the ones who crave what most avoid. The truth that existence is stranger and more beautiful than we're ever told. And when you're ready, one of these 2 videos waiting on your screen will take you even further.